I, 54 female, have been invited by a friend, 50 female, who I will call Anne, to come to her house for Thanksgiving. We all live in Italy, but spent many years in the USA and have several American friends in the area. Anne heard that I make a traditional Thanksgiving dinner at my house every year for my family and a couple friends, 6 people total. It is quite difficult to get all of the supplies here, no buying canned pumpkin or cranberry sauce. So I make every single thing from scratch. Over the years, I've also acquired all the dishes and tools and spices, no suppliers for the more exotic things, and am an all-around good cook. So Anne, who was born in China but lived in the USA for 20 plus years, asked if I would come to her beautiful and much bigger home and teach her how to make the whole dinner. For a group of 12 people instead of the usual 6, I was hesitant at first because we live a very modest lifestyle, and Anne and her British husband are very well off, but I figured it would still be fun, and I would enjoy putting on the feast for new people and in a beautiful kitchen. After I agreed, the problems began. First, Anne wanted to have the dinner on a day that isn't Thanksgiving to make it more convenient. I decided it wasn't all that important since we live in Italy. So it is scheduled for the Sunday prior to the actual day. Then, when we were planning to meet to go shopping for all the ingredients, she asked if I could do all the shopping and she would reimburse me for her half. I asked what she meant, and she said that I'd be paying for half of everything. So, not only would I be doing all the shopping, all the planning, all the cooking and teaching her as well, but now I'm expected to pay for the food? I told her I could not do this. We really don't have the budget. So now she's trying to alter the menu she agreed to. Turkey and fixings, candied yams, roasted veggies, an appetizer, and pie. Really a modest dinner by American standards. She then made a comment that her friends don't eat like pigs. She then went to another guest with my recipes and asked her to prepare my pumpkin pie so she didn't have to buy the ingredients. Bear in mind, Anne and her husband are very wealthy. I'd estimate the whole dinner for 12 might cost 200 euros for the ingredients, and my labor Anne gets for free. She thinks I'm being stubborn and ungenerous. My family thinks Anne is taking advantage of my kindness, and her miserly ways are ridiculous since she'd spend double that amount for lunch out on a whim. So, am I the asshole for refusing to contribute to the meal or be bullied into this nonsense? My family wants me to just bow out and tell her I'm not comfortable with her attitude. I'm tempted because this feels toxic and manipulative. I'm 40 female and I have 6 sisters. My 2 older sisters are 44 and 47, and my 4 younger sisters are 38, 36, 34, and 32. We've always been a close-knit family, and for the past decade, I've taken on the responsibility of hosting Thanksgiving at my house. I enjoy having everyone over, but it's a lot of work, especially since we all have at least 2 kids each, all in the age group 5-15. It's chaos, but joyful chaos. My husband helps out, but the majority of the planning, cooking, and organizing falls on me. This year, I decided I need a break. Life has been hectic, and I'm feeling burnt out. Between work, taking care of my kids, 10 and 11 years old, and other responsibilities, I'm just not up for the task of hosting a big family gathering. So, I suggested that one of my sisters take over hosting Thanksgiving this year. I brought this up in our family group chat, thinking it would be a reasonable request and it's plenty ahead of time. However, my 2 older sisters, Sarah, 47, and Emily, 44, were not happy with the idea. Sarah has a busy job in a smaller house, so she feels she can't accommodate everyone comfortably. Emily argued that she's been dealing with a lot of stress lately and doesn't have the energy to host. They both suggested that since I've been doing it for so long, I should just keep the tradition going, especially since my house is the most spacious and I'm the one who knows how to do it right. My younger sisters were more understanding, but they also hesitated to take on the responsibility. My sister Jessica, 38, said she would be willing to help out more with the preparations if I hosted, but she wasn't confident about hosting the entire event herself. The other younger sisters offered similar compromises, but no one was willing to take on the full load. After some back and forth, I stood firm and said, I really need someone else to host this year. I suggested we could even make it a potluck to ease the burden, but Sarah and Emily were still upset. They accused me of being selfish and abandoning a family tradition that I've upheld for years. They argued that I'm the one with the most experience and that Thanksgiving just wouldn't be the same if I didn't host. Now, there's tension in the family, with my older sisters feeling like I'm letting them down. I feel like I've done my fair share over the years, and it's not unreasonable to ask for a break. But at the same time, I understand that my older sisters are also under a lot of pressure and that hosting Thanksgiving is a big deal for our family. So, am I the asshole for refusing to host Thanksgiving this year after doing it for the past decade? By the way, the second oldest, Emily, handles Christmas. So I feel like it's totally fair that she not want to do both. She does not cook though. She hires a catering company, but it's still a lot to take on regardless. Update. So the sisters and I got together on Friday night and had a good talk. I may or not have had a mini breakdown on them. On Saturday, Emily called the company that she uses for catering at Christmas, and they are going to do Thanksgiving for us. Still happening at my house, but they are like full service catering too. They come and set everything up, are there for the service of the food, and then they take everything down. Sarah, Emily, and I are going to split the cost, and since I normally don't split Christmas costs with them because I did Thanksgiving, I will now split Christmas costs with them. This will be how we proceed moving forward. I, 27 female, and my brother, John, 26 male, are very close. So I was definitely shocked when he surprised us on Thanksgiving by bringing his new girlfriend, Chelsea. He was very happy though. And to be honest, that's the only thing we want for him. So we, grandparents, parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, held off on all questions until another time. Anyway, dinner time rolls around and we're sharing everything. And my aunt kind of pulls me off to the side and tells me we're not going to be eating my mashed potatoes because Chelsea brought some and John asked that we serve those. I was a little peeved, not going to lie, because I've done the mashed potatoes for Thanksgiving since I was 16, but I got over it pretty fast. I really didn't care as long as they were good. Spoiler alert, they were not. Everything that could have gone wrong with those potatoes went wrong. They were raisins. She was really excited though, so when she asked everybody if they were good, she got some you know, the kind you do with your mouth closed and an uncomfortable smile on your face. Everything else was good, so her dish was highlighted. We all thought we passed it though, until my nephew spit it out into a tissue. She said something about not pleasing everybody to lighten the mood because we were all looking at him hard as hell. And my brother went, "I'm sure they glad to have a break from my potatoes anyway," and then laughed. I wasn't going to say anything, but my sister, 22 female, said, "We are not," in the most monotone voice. And I just laughed, man, like one burst of a cackle. Chelsea teared up and the rest of the night was awkward. My brother called me an asshole and is still mad at me. My mom, Lisa, 56 female, and I, 17 female, have a rocky relationship. I'm close with my older brothers, Max, 35 male, and Alex, 30 male, but we have different dads. My parents divorced when I was 3, and I've never had a stable father figure. My mom remarried when I was 4 to a man who was emotionally abusive and caused me a lot of trauma. They divorced 3 years ago, which was a huge relief for me. A few months ago, my mom started dating again. Her first boyfriend, Bobby, was nice, but she broke it off quickly, saying she never really liked him. Then she started dating her current boyfriend, Mike, about 2 months ago. The first time I met him, he handed me the keys to my first car, a car I paid $2,000 for, with the rest from my mom and grandma. It felt weird and awkward, like he was trying to act like a dad. Mike didn't make a good impression on my family either. At Max's recent 35th birthday brunch, Mike spent the whole time talking about himself and his kids, ignoring Max entirely. My mom spends most of her time at Mike's house now, leaving me to cook and grocery shop for myself. I've told her I'm not ready to get to know him because of my trauma from past father figures, but she calls me selfish, even though I've been in therapy since I was 8. Now, my mom and Mike are hosting Thanksgiving, but Max and his family aren't coming because they don't like Mike. I told my mom I'd rather spend the day with Max and his kids, and she accused me of being selfish and disrespectful. I've always wanted a good, stable family, and spending Thanksgiving with a man I barely know is not my ideal scenario, especially after spending every Thanksgiving as a child with my crappy stepdad. So, am I the asshole? I, 27 female, have been dating my husband, 34 male, since 2018. We got married 3 years into our relationship, and things have been going extremely well. We have spent 4 years of Thanksgivings at my parents' house. This was the first time we choose to spend it at his parents' house. When we got there, my mother-in-law, her mother, and both my sister-in-laws were in the kitchen, all helping each other with food. Me and my husband went in there and talked for a bit. My mother-in-law asked me if I would like to help out. I said, not right now. Would it be okay if I come back soon and help out a bit? She very nicely said it was totally fine and told me and my husband to get us something to drink and hang out with the men and kids. My husband gave me a nasty look and said, "You're not even going to help?" His mother said that they were more than enough people, and she just asked me in case I wanted to help with the cooking, but that they all managed just fine. He grabbed a beer for only himself and went to the living room. I did the same and followed after. I ended up helping them with setting up everything on the table, as I wanted to help out just a bit. His mother did not ask me to do this. Neither did my sisters-in-law. Dinner went extremely well. We talked a lot, and I really like his family. When me and my husband got in the car, he started mumbling really angrily at me. I asked him about 3 times what he was saying before he blew up at me. He told me that it is their tradition that the women are in the kitchen cooking, that I disrespect his mom in her own house by acting so entitled. We ended up having an argument about this whole thing, and he has not stopped insisting on that his mother, in fact, is offended by this. I have not talked to her about this. She did not tell me anything about being offended either. But I know his mom is a really nice woman who would never want to say anything bad about someone. So I am starting to think that maybe I really disrespected his mom and she just don't have the heart to tell me. So am I the asshole for not following their traditions? I feel like I was an asshole because helping out would not have been that hard. And had I known the outcome, I would have just stayed and helped out. I don't know if this will help my case, but I am working as a nurse and had just come from an 18-hour shift and directly went to MIL's house. Hence why I was not that keen on helping out with dinner. I could not get the day off. Don't know if that is even relevant or not. It is just like my reasoning behind this. My wife is a grade A+ picky eater. It's bothersome to a certain degree, but on holidays, basically, the shit show begins. She'd refuse to eat certain meals and mom would take it personally, which results in a series of arguments between them. As a compromise this year, my wife offered to bring her own food to Thanksgiving dinner. I was stunned. I asked if she thought this through, and she looked at me confused. I told her about how weird it'd be for her to bring her own food, especially when she wouldn't be sharing it with anybody else, and told her to think about how mom will react. She'd get very offended and upset. My wife said that it's not her problem and that she was just trying to make it work by bringing her own meal. I told her again that mom might not like nor even allow this. She blew up at me, asking if I want her to either eat food she doesn't like or go hungry. I suggested she give my mom's food a chance, but she said it wasn't about my mom's cooking. She just doesn't like certain foods. We had an argument, and I ended up telling she could stay home this Thanksgiving and have whatever meal she likes. She got quiet, then lashed out on me, calling me insensitive and negative to say this to her. I repeatedly asked her to calm down, but she couldn't stop ranting about how I was basically willing to exclude her from a major event. She started cold shouldering me about it, while at the same time guilting me, saying I'm treating her poorly after she offered the perfect compromise. Update. And so my wife has decided to go spend Thanksgiving with her family, who, by the way, live hours away, so this means unnecessary travel expenses, instead and basically ditch me for a whole week. Y'all happy now? Though I appreciate some insightful comments on the situation. Some others, not so much, especially with those assumptions claiming that my wife has allergies. She does not. Y'all get that from? But anyway, it's all good now. I guess, though, I'm not too thrilled with her decision. I feel like she's doing it to spite me or get me to cave in. I'm 40 male, a father of 2 kids, son 14 and daughter 16. I recently got married to my wife, Molly, who is a great cook, and she has been cooking for me and the kids in the past few months. However, my daughter doesn't like all the meals Molly cooks and sometimes cooks her own dinners. Molly, as a result, would get hurt thinking her food isn't good enough. She confided in me about how much it bothers her to see my daughter decline her food and cook by herself. I've talked to my daughter to address the issue, and she said she appreciates Molly's cooking, but naturally cannot be expected to eat everything she cooks. I asked her to be more considerate and try to take a few bites here and there whenever Molly cooks to avoid conflict since she's very sensitive. My daughter just noted, and I thought that was the end of it. Last night, I got home from a dinner meeting with few coworkers and found Molly arguing with my daughter. I asked what's going on, and Molly told me my daughter said no to dinner. She cooked and went into the kitchen to prepare her own dinner as if Molly's food was less than. I asked my daughter to come out the kitchen and please sit at the table and eat at least some of her stepmom cooked, but she refused, saying she's old enough not to eat food she doesn't like and pretend to like it just like I wanted her to appease her stepmom. I told her she was acting rude and had her turn the oven off and told her no cooking for her tonight and asked her to go to her room to think about this encounter, then come back to talk. But she started arguing that is when I punished her by taking away her Thanksgiving gift that her mom left with me. We both paid for it. And she started crying, saying it was too much and that she didn't understand why she was being punished. Again, I asked her to go to her room to cool off, but she called my in-laws, her uncle and aunt, who picked a huge argument with me over the phone, saying my daughter is old enough to cook her own meals and my wife should get over herself and stop picking on my daughter. But Molly explained she just wants to make sure my daughter eats well and that she cares otherwise it wouldn't hurt so bad. My in-laws told me to back out of the punishment, but in my opinion, this was more than an issue about dinner, and I refused to let them intervene and hung up. My daughter has been completely silent and refuses to come downstairs. To clarify, the gift, which is an iPhone, was supposed to be for my daughter's birthday 2 months ago, but due to circumstances, we couldn't celebrate nor have time to get her a gift, so her mom wanted her to have it on Thanksgiving. Every year we have charcuterie board before Thanksgiving meal at 6. Just something everyone can pick at so they aren't dying of hunger by dinner time. My son, 16, loves cheese, and due to this, I make sure to label when he can't eat something. I labeled all the stuff for Thanksgiving don't eat. Well, yesterday he went and ate all of the fancy meats and basically ate from each block that I bought. I truly was pissed since I worked extra hours to pay for it, since the prices are awful now for a nice cheese. I told him he needs to go to the store to replace all of it, which would cost him around $70. One of the cheese he ate was $18. Or he doesn't get to eat Thanksgiving meal. He is refusing to pay for it back, so no Thanksgiving meal, he will eat a sandwich. And he thinks I am being a horrible jerk. My husband is on his side and doesn't understand why I am so pissed about it. I have a small family. Me 60 female, mom 88, brother 55. Every year since my father died, 2003, he was 65. We have Thanksgiving with my brother. My father had a brother who is still alive. Brian, 85, has been cruel and unkind to me since I was a child, making fun of my hair, my clothes, where I went to college, etc., etc. Nobody in my family ever did anything about it. Brian has children my age, my first cousins, and then had 3 sons, also first cousins living in my city, with a woman my age when I was at 30. The last time I saw Brian was at my father's funeral. He made a comment about my breasts while the rabbi was pinning on our ribbons. Brian was the executor of my father's will. As he settled the estate, he tried to manipulate me into giving up random items left to me including my grandmother's inexpensive wedding ring. He sent email missives to family members stating why he deserved these things. I let him keep the random items, and ultimately, I got the ring. Then he had to sell a piece of family property, and we, mom, brother, me, were due half of the money. First, he tried to buy us out at a price $100K lower than it was worth. We refused. Then he asked a family friend to try to buy the property from us at the same rate. We refused and forced him to give us half the actual price. Fast forward 20 years. Yesterday, my brother, who is hosting Thanksgiving, invited Brian's sons who live in our city. We do not believe they know anything about what their father did to us. The eldest son, James, 29, reached out to my brother to thank him for the invite, agreed to come, and said that his parents were in town, and could he bring them along? My brother called my mother. I'll remind you, she's 88 and frail. She said she would still come, which infuriates me. Then my brother called me, told me the story, said he was put in a bad spot because James could not have known, then asked me if I would still come. The conversation became heated as I have no intention of seeing this man again for obvious reasons. I believe my brother is being well-meaning, but is trying to figure out how to keep Brian away and not hurt James. Clearly, nobody gives a shit about my feelings. I am sorry he has been put in this position, but honestly, I'm horrified that my family would care so little about me that they would do this. I called my mother and we had a screaming match. She told me I could sit home and eat pie, but that she was going. I reminded her about the breast comment and the money. She would not budge and basically hung up on me. So I may be forced to spend Thanksgiving alone unless I spend it with the man who made a comment about my breast and tried to steal from us. Am I the asshole? Update. I told my brother that I would not come if my uncle was there and stood firm. He reached out to James, the cousin, and told him there was bad blood between me/my mom and his parents, and it would be too uncomfortable if they came. They are not coming. Now, my family is very angry with me and not returning emails. I do have other offers, but I was supposed to spend 5 days with my mom and bring her to Thanksgiving. Nothing about this feels good. Me, 17 male, and my little brother, James, 9 male, live with our older sister, Eva, 26 female. James and I were removed from our mom when I was 10, and Eva did everything she could to keep my brother and I out of the system. I think it was because she was worried we'd be separated, and I know she was in foster care for a little bit when she was younger. So I guess that was another reason she didn't want us to go in. She has guardianship of us now, and the adoption process is already going through. So today we were having a family dinner at a relative's house, and some people from our mom's side of the family, aunt, uncles, cousins, etc., were there with us. My aunt ended up making kind of a big deal out of the fact that Eva had me and James help with some of the prep for dinner. She ended up saying something like, "You shouldn't be bossing them around. They're not your kids and you're not their mother." Before anyone could respond, I said, "Well, we haven't been your sister's kids for like 7 years now, so who do you think was doing her job instead?" My aunt got mad, and then eventually everyone was arguing. So dinner was ruined. A few of my cousins even texted me afterwards and said so. And pretty much everyone ended up going home. Eva told me that it's not my responsibility to defend her. Then she said she was sorry for the situation with our aunt. I feel bad because I made Eva feel bad, and because according to most of our family, I ruined the occasion with what I said. They think that it wasn't the place or time for me to bring up my mother's situation, even if it was just in response to what my aunt was saying. I didn't mean to ruin dinner or anything, but am I the asshole? I, 31, male and married to Lily, 30 female. My brother, Josh, 29, male, recently started dating Lindsay, 27 female. And while she's been polite at family events, Lily feels Lindsay has made some passive-aggressive comments. For example, at a recent BBQ, Lindsay said it was selfish that Lily and I weren't planning to have kids anytime soon. Lily felt uncomfortable, but I didn't say anything at the time. Another incident happened at a family dinner when Lindsay remarked, "I'm surprised you two are so happy without kids. You must be really good at being selfish." Lily was hurt by that comment. and it made her feel like Lindsay was judging our life choices. Most recently, at a birthday party, Lindsay made a comment about Lily's career, saying, "It's cute that you're working part-time with no kids while Josh and I are really focusing on our careers." Lily was annoyed, but didn't say anything because she didn't want to start drama. Thanksgiving is at our house this year, and when Josh asked if he could bring Lindsay, I told him I'd prefer if she didn't come. I explained that some of her comments had made Lily feel disrespected, and I didn't want that to ruin the holiday. Josh got upset and said I was being petty. He argued that I was overreacting and that Lindsay was just being honest, but I stood my ground. Now Josh says he won't come if Lindsay isn't invited, and my parents are caught in the middle. My mom thinks I'm being too harsh, but I feel like I'm just standing up for my wife. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my brother bring his girlfriend to Thanksgiving? I, 28 female, have been with my husband Sean, 33 male, for 2 years, married for 5 months. Most of his family are decent people, but his mom can be a little of a passive-aggressive and tends to criticize me a lot. Sean sees it as her still not getting used to me being around, but I don't know because she treats his ex, Julissa, good. My mother-in-law says that Julissa has been around the family for age, and her past with Sean never affected her relationship with her. I never minded her attending every holiday and being around till yesterday. We had Thanksgiving dinner at my mother-in-law's house. Sean went there before me, and when I arrived, it was already dinner time. Everyone was seated, and I saw that all chairs were taken. I asked my mother-in-law why she didn't save me a seat, and she said sorry, and that one of her granddaughters decided to show up last minute and the chair was taken. I looked at her, then at Julissa, who was sitting next to Sean, and tried to point out how I was more deserving of her chair since I'm the daughter-in-law. I know I shouldn't have said it. I know. My mother-in-law flat out said that Julissa is as much family as me and that it was rude to imply otherwise. Julissa was nodding confidently while glancing at me. I was so upset I wanted to leave, but decided to just sit on my husband's lap and act as casual as possible. I sat on his lap asking if he was okay with it. Don't worry, I'm petite, he's strong-built. And started eating so casually while smiling and complimenting the food and mentioning to Sean how warm and comfortable his lap was now and then. The table went awkwardly silent. My brother-in-law would try to break the silence and change the subject, but it somehow goes back to being awkward. My mother-in-law and Julissa were barely eating and were staring at each other, then at me, eyes wide open. Minutes later, Julissa excused herself to the bathroom, and so did my mother-in-law. It was still awkward, but I did my best to focus on dinner. Sean was eating as well. Later, there was just so much tension, and my mother-in-law was barely able to speak after Julissa left, like right after dinner. Sean and I went home, and my mother-in-law tried calling me, but then she called Sean and texted me saying what I did was inappropriate and that I ruined Thanksgiving dinner and made it awkward. She said it wasn't her fault, chairs were taken, and I could have dragged a chair from the kitchen, but acted childishly and made Julissa and family uncomfortable with how inappropriate I was. I need to mention that even if I took a chair from the kitchen, there was not enough space at dinner table to fit the chair. Everyone was sitting next to each other. Usually for Thanksgiving, we head out to go see family. Someone else always hosts. We typically help sponsor the host by paying for cleanup, etc. Our home is just too small to host the 30-plus folks who typically show up through the day. This year, that's obviously not happening. Other than us talking about not doing the usual, Thanksgiving didn't come up until yesterday. My kids have the week off from online school, and I was doing a puzzle with them before dinner when my husband walks in after work and says, "So, did we get a turkey?" I looked at him and said, "Well, I know I didn't. Did you?" He stared at me blankly and said, "No. What do you mean? Do we need to get one still? Is it being delivered?" I shrugged and said, "I don't know nothing about no turkey." The kids and he looked so confused, so I helped them along and said, "I didn't buy anything. I didn't plan anything. No one said anything to me about Thanksgiving. Nobody offered to help meal plan, cook anything, do anything." He blew up yelling at me about how I should have obviously known. I said, why? I've literally never planned or made a Thanksgiving dinner in my life. The most I've ever done was help clean up or maybe peel the potato. I asked him, why didn't he plan anything? Why didn't the kids plan anything? Why is everyone waiting until the last minute and dumping it on me? He just sputtered and yelled and stormed off to his office and left me with the kids. We all had dinner, the kids cleaned up, and I was relaxing with some wine and a book after they all went to bed. My husband tore into me about how he can't believe I left this all to the last minute. Now there will be no Thanksgiving. How could I be heartbroken to do this to the kids, etc.? So I just looked at him and said, why didn't you plan? Why did you wait to the last minute to ask me? He told me I was being a fucking bitch for no reason and stomped off to go sleep in his office. He left without saying a word this morning. I followed up with my kids and asked them if they wanted Thanksgiving. They said they didn't care because the food isn't that good most of the time anyway. Before you ask, yep, I work as well. We split chores, but there's no hard line. I do some, he does some. We both cook, and the oldest cooks as well. I just don't get why Thanksgiving is on my plate. Why? Just because I'm a woman? Am I the asshole? I, 30 female, met my boyfriend, 30 male, 3 years ago. Before me, he was together with his high school sweetheart. They fell out of love and broke up. A year later, we started dating. His mom, however, was still heartbroken about it. I was very understanding and thought she needed time to get to know me. The ex basically grew up with them, and they saw her as a part of the family. For the first year of my relationship, his mom would call me ex's name until my boyfriend got angry once and told her to be nice. She laughed it off and said it was just a habit. After that, she started calling me the wrong name, Janet instead of Jenny. Fictional names just for the story. I corrected her a couple of times, but she seemed to like hurting me, so I ignored it later. My BF has 2 sisters, and a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving, we were invited to barbecue at the older sister's house. I was in the kitchen with my BF's mom, the sisters, and one of their husbands. The older sister then talked about how my BF praised my cooking to her husband, and the mom was listening. She then said out loud, "Sure, why don't we let Janet make the turkey this year?" The sisters giggled and looked at each other, and I said, "That's a great idea." I didn't tell my BF what happened. On Thanksgiving, we went to his mom's house with the usual wine and dessert. She was shocked. Everybody was shocked. I said, "What? I thought Janet is bringing the turkey." There was yelling, crying, and then we got kicked out. My BF is so angry with me, he hasn't talked to me since. I think it's over, to be honest. But I still don't think I did anything wrong. Did I? 54 female, have a friend, 55 female who went vegan 10 years ago. We've been friends 20 years or more. We have a large group of friends, 15, and there are a few of us that switch off cooking dinner on Thanksgiving for whoever is in town. Since Anne went vegan, we've always accommodated her dietary restrictions with, at the very least, some tofurkey, 1 side dish, and 1 dessert being strictly vegan. This year, Anne jumped in early and for the first time ever said she wanted to cook Thanksgiving this year. Not a problem. Until she informed us in the group chat dinner will be 100% vegan. Some of us offered to bring more omnivore offerings, including a turkey, and she insisted we eat vegan while at her house. She declared that vegan food tastes exactly the same as omnivore food. It does not. I've been to her house and choked down bean burgers and chocolate cake, and probably a dozen other meals, each of which she insisted tasted just like the real thing. She even tried to fool me once with a Beyond Burger, insisting it was a regular hamburger. I have only found a limited number of vegan dishes I enjoy, and none of them have ever been made by her. After thinking it over and discussing it with my husband, we decided to privately tell her we were bowing out of dinner on Thanksgiving this year. I told her I wanted turkey, mashed potatoes, pumpkin pie that were made with traditional ingredients. I could have lied and said we had plans to travel to see family, but I don't want to lie. Anne has become angrier and angrier with me since I told her this about a week ago. Then she went and complained to some of the women in our group about me refusing to attend just because she's cooking, which is sort of true, but still made me angry. So I ended explaining to the other ladies that we all very considerately make vegan dishes just for her at every party and get together any of us throw. And it's really unreasonable for her to insist that I strictly adhere to her dietary choices when I have never demanded the same from her. So that blew up because all the ladies have now jumped to my way of thinking and decided they will have Thanksgiving at one of their houses instead. We will not be attending their Thanksgiving either. My husband says we probably should have lied about going out of town, or at the very least, I should have not explained my reasoning to the other ladies. I've decided to stay out of it from here on out, but somehow Anna blames me for the whole debacle. Am I the asshole for declining to attend a vegan Thanksgiving? I'm 22, female. I'm the youngest cousin in the family by a lot. All of my older cousins have kids. Every Thanksgiving, we go to my aunt's house. My cousins put their kids in the playroom and start drinking, and I get stuck watching the kids all day. Anytime one cries or has to go for the bathroom or any of them fight, I get stuck dealing with it. They also sit me at the kids' table. I complain to my mom every year, and she just tells me it's not like that, and is it a big deal to give the parents the day off? I don't look forward to Thanksgiving anymore because it happens every year. My boyfriend inviting me to his family Thanksgiving this year, and I decided to go. I told my mom, and she is flipping out, telling me it will break her heart to not have me there for Thanksgiving. And everyone will miss me. I just want to enjoy Thanksgiving this year. I, 27, female and 5 months pregnant. I have pre-existing health issues that I manage by having a diet with no meat of any sort. This has caused me and my mother-in-law to have conflicts, especially when I refuse to eat the food she makes. I used to either come and not eat anything or just stay at home. Since I am pregnant, I could not attend Thanksgiving and not bring food with me out of respect for my mother-in-law. I cooked a small meal and brought it with me. My mother-in-law made a fuss about it, but justified it as I was making a mistake robbing her grandbaby of getting all meat benefits. I explained that I take supplements as replacement, but she shrugged and was upset. We waited till dinner table was set. My mother-in-law didn't let me help or go into the kitchen at all. She took my dish and said she'd reheat it for me and put it on the table. Yet, when I sat down, I was stunned to have discovered that she had not put my dish there. When asked publicly, she denied receiving any dish from me and started asking if I accidentally left it at home or the car. There was a huge blow up. My mother-in-law tried to convince me to sit back down and just eat what she put on the table. I refused, but my husband insisted and told me to let it go this time. I decided to leave. I grabbed my stuff and walked out. I found out that she threw out the dish I brought and tried to get me to just eat what she put on her table. She said that she was looking out for grandbaby's health, and my husband said it wasn't worth leaving the celebration and causing a scene. We had a big argument, and his mom thinks I'm being dramatic and hard to deal with. Was I the asshole for walking out? The dish I brought was supposed to keep me full and provide me with all the benefits, so it wasn't like any of her appetizers or side dishes. I also put work into making it, and it costs me money. She keeps insisting it's about her grandbaby and her concern for their health. In our family, holidays are rotated. So one person hosts the 4th of July, another hosts Christmas, and another hosts Thanksgiving, etc. This way, no one is constantly hosting, and it makes it fair for everyone. This post is about my middle daughter, Clara. Clara has always been skipping her host duties. When it gets to her, she has an excuse why she can't host. It ranges, but usually goes along the lines of stress or she is too busy. This results in other family members to pick up her holiday. It is frustrating, and multiple people have talked to her about this. She bailed on hosting Easter, but promised me that she would do Thanksgiving. We swapped holidays. At the time, I made it very clear she needed to stay true to her word, and if she dumped it on someone else, she wouldn't be going to Thanksgiving. It usually gets dumped on me. Anyway, I called her asking if she wanted me to bring a dessert board for Thanksgiving. She told me that she could not host because she had just moved into her home. She moved in July, and it was too messy to host. I told her she could clean since it was a few weeks away. She told me she can't. I know the other kids can't host it. Well, one could, but she is doing Christmas and it's not fair at all for her. I informed everyone it would beat my place this year. I also informed everyone that Clara is not invited this year to Thanksgiving. Clara was pissed when I told her that, and we got into a huge argument. She thinks I am a big jerk. My other kids are split. 2 of them are happy since they are tired of picking up her slack when this happens, while others think this is too far. I, 32 female, have been with my wife Ava, 34 female, for 8 years now, but we've been married for 5. She was a single mom of 3 kids when we started dating. She had 2 daughters, now 10 and 12, and a son, now 16. I've watched these kids grow up. I've read the bedtime stories, done bath time, the first days of school, PTA meetings, all of it. I very much consider them to be my kids, and they've been calling me mom for almost 6 years now. My brother Ivan, 28 male, just had a baby girl with his fiancée Sarah, 27 female. I love my niece, and my kids adore their cousin. My kids have been the only grandchildren on my side of the family since Ava and I got together, and there's never been a moment where the kids and my wife were treated like they didn't belong. My brother is their uncle, my mom and dad are their nana and pop. The kids see my family as their family, and I always thought that my family felt the same way about them. The kids and I were over at my brother's house just hanging out, and my parents ended up dropping by with gifts for my niece. Yvonne laughed when he saw the toys and told our mom and dad that they were going to end up spoiling her rotten. My mom said since my niece is their first grandchild, of course they have to spoil her. My kids were sitting in the living room with all of us, and my youngest daughter looked hurt when she realized what my mother said. My son and my 12 years old didn't fully react to it, but I could tell it bothered the both of them too. Sarah spoke up and said, "Oh, you mean first grandbaby, not first grandchild." My dad shook his head and replied that my niece was their first grandchild. I didn't want my kids to keep sitting there and listening to that, so I handed my son my keys and told him to wait in the car with his sisters. When they were gone, I asked my parents why the hell they'd say that my kids weren't their grandchildren, and my mom said they couldn't be their grandchildren because they weren't really my children. My wife and I were going to be hosting Thanksgiving at our house this year, but I told my parents that if they didn't view my kids as their family, then they could just host a meal at their own house with their real family while I spent the holiday with mine. I left before they could say anything else to me, and my wife and I have reiterated to the children that they will always be my kids, and I will always be their other mom, regardless of our DNA. My brother is pissed at me now because he thinks I reacted too harshly and that I should try to see where my parents are coming from. My mom texted saying that she and my dad love the kids, but they still aren't their grandchildren, and she hopes that we can come to understand that because she doesn't want this to ruin my niece's first Thanksgiving. I haven't replied back. I meant what I said, but I'm worried that maybe I'm reacting too harshly. I adopted all 3 of the kids about 4 years ago, so they aren't just my parents' step-grandchildren. Even if I hadn't legally adopted them, they'd still be my kids in my eyes. My wife's parents don't have a relationship with the kids. When my wife came out, they pretty much stopped speaking with her entirely. Their bio dad is not involved, and neither is his family. He lost his rights to the children before Ava and I started dating. The 10 years old has never met him. The 12 years old doesn't remember him, and the 16 years old wants nothing to do with him. My parents wanted the kids to call them Nana and Pop. I didn't make the kids start calling them that. I, 27 female, have solely been responsible for cooking Thanksgiving dinner for 20 plus people for the last 8 years. I do all the shopping, cooking, and setting up. Months before Thanksgiving, I start looking at grocery prices and tweaking recipes to fit dietary restrictions. Caribbean family, vegans and pescatarians, meat eaters. I also make enough for the college-age kids to have leftovers. I usually make 3 turkeys, 2 party pans of mac and cheese, and a party pan of mashed potatoes, stuffing, green bean casserole, collard greens, yams, mini seafood quiches, stuffed mushrooms, rolls, and a salad from scratch. plus all the desserts, apple pie, sweet potato pie, cheesecake, homemade ice cream, and breads also from scratch. I start making stocks and doughs Tuesday night. I bake my bread for stuffing and make my cheesecake and pies Wednesday after work. Cook all day Thursday so we can sit down and start eating at by 4 so my aunts who work the night shift as nurses can enjoy. Every year, people invite unexpected guests and it becomes 30 plus. I would be okay if it were plus ones, but my mom invites her friends and their kids. My mom and aunt asked me to make additional turkeys and some sides for their units. I never feel appreciated for everything I do to make it special and accommodate everyone. This year, I'm separated from my husband, and I really don't feel like bending over backwards, cooking for people who don't even leave me leftovers to make a sandwich the next day. This year, I've decided not to cook and just spend my day at the beach. I was asked how much the adults should Zelle me for Thanksgiving groceries at the beginning of the month, and I told them I'm not cooking. Today, I received a Zelle from my uncle, and when I returned it, he asked why. I reminded him and the family group chat I wasn't cooking. Now they want me to cancel my plans and cook. Am I the asshole for not wanting to? Edit. This is my favorite holiday, but my separation has left me emotionally exhausted and without any passion to cook. I don't actually mind the cooking for my family. I look forward to it. The unexpected guests, a little. The thing bothering me is that I expected to do this year is that I wanted to celebrate the only holiday I look forward to with my husband. I wanted to share the dishes that I love and schedule chaos with him. Every year, my wife and I, 35 male, rotate whose family we go to for Thanksgiving. One year mine, the next year hers. This year is due to be with my family. Typically, my parents host. This year, my sister, 29 female, and husband asked to host, and my parents okayed it. I declined and caused an uproar. I've been called an asshole, rude, etc. My sister loves animals, and well, I don't. I rarely go to her house, and when I do, it's without my wife and kids. And I find the fact that she lets her cats into the kitchen and on the counters really fucking gross. And her dog is super obnoxious, not all that well behaved. It'll jump on you and that type of stuff. I wouldn't say it's dangerous, just annoying. When the news about who is hosting came to me, I discussed it with my wife, said, let's go to your families, and my wife was good with that. I let my parents know, and they said I was overreacting. They love her dog, so in my opinion, they have a distorted viewpoint. The news made it to my sister, and she was not happy. I told her we would come if the animals stayed in another room and didn't come out at all, and I could clean the kitchen. She said I could clean all I wanted, but that was a disrespectful request to her family. I told her that her pets are not family to me, and I don't want to spend time with them. I've left it with the fact that I'm not going to my sister's, but my sister and parents are upset with my decision. I'm 29 female, the players are my mom, stepdad, and 4 step siblings, 35 male, 37 male, 40 female, 42 male, and their families. I'm the black sheep in that I'm the only one not married with kids, but that's by my preference. I love living alone. I don't want kids, and having a partner just isn't that important to me. My family has been asking me when I'm going to get a boyfriend and settle down since I was 19, and the answer has always been, you never. I was going to skip Thanksgiving, but my mom insisted that she wanted everyone home this year if possible, so I went. It was the usual drill, but youngest stepbrother and his wife are having another kid, so that was the big announcement. This was fine until around the end of dinner, one of the step siblings asked if I'm not anxious to have kids since I'm almost 30 and time is running out. I laughed and said, nah, I'm good. That led to one of the stepbrothers saying that every family needs an old maiden aunt and some other comments I didn't appreciate. I said, let's move on, but my mom said, we're just worried about you. This is where I'm possibly the asshole. I know all the family dirt, so I said, well, I'm the only person at this table that's not an alcoholic, a cheater, or constantly broke AF because I have more kids than I can afford, so I'm not the one to worry about. And that's how I brought Thanksgiving to a dead halt, and no one said a thing for the rest of dinner